Welcome to In Fearless Conversation, a podcast from 261 Fearless, where every discussion is an opportunity to shape the future. I'm your host, Kim Chafee, and together we'll explore any topic that impacts a woman's quality of life, from leadership and personal growth to health and financial security. Join me and discover how a fearless conversation can shape the future you deserve. Welcome to today's episode of In Fearless Conversation. We are officially in March, which, as you probably know, is Women's History Month. It's a time to honor the women who have challenged the rules, broken the barriers, and refused to wait for permission. But it's also a reminder that women's history isn't just something that we should look back on. It's something that we are still writing. And today's guest is someone who truly understands the power of telling those stories. Stacey Tenenbaum is an award-winning documentary filmmaker and the founder of H2L Productions. She has built her career around finding extraordinary people, often women, who quietly, persistently reshape the world around them. Her films have screened internationally and been broadcast across the globe, but what really sets her work apart isn't just the reach, it's the heart. And in today's episode, we're going to talk about her powerful new documentary, Tough Old Broads. It's a bold celebration of three special women whose accomplishments demand to be seen and remembered. We'll explore what persistence really looks like over a lifetime, why change is possible even when the systems around us resist that, and how women continue to be powerful agents of transformation. And we'll also go behind the scenes a little bit of her experience at the Paris Olympics with Kathrine Switzer. She was there witnessing history in motion and reflecting on just how far women in sport have come. This conversation is such a fun one. It's about grit and legacy and about the quiet, steady power of women who don't hold back and really pave the way for others to follow. And I'm so excited for you to listen, so let's get into it. So thrilled that you have some time to share with us, because I know things have been extremely busy for you in the best possible way. Let's dive right in. So much to cover here. Well, first, it's March, which is a very special month for us at 261 Fearless, and I think for you as well, because we're celebrating Women's History Month. And you know, it's a time when we look back and we honor the women that came before us and think about all the change that they've already created for us. And your work feels really aligned with this. But I'm curious what Women's History Month means to you personally.
Well, I think it's a time where we can talk about, like you said, the woman that came before us, but also I think it's a time where you can think about how women have been erased from history. People are just starting to work on that, of bringing these voices back into the historical record. But for so long, I think they were erased. Women just weren't talked about unless, unless they'd, were a queen or something like that. But there's a lot of women that have gone forgotten. There's a lot of women's work that has gone unnoticed, and actually even sort of erased from the historic record. So I kind of think about that, as well as all of the women that have, brought us to the place where we are today, and we're trailblazers. And that's why I wanted to make this film, was about trailblazing women and to give them a voice, and to also let the younger generation know about these women, and keep their names alive, and to keep their inspiration that they give people going. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Looking back in history, a lot of times, even women that accomplished amazing society-changing things, the credit was given often to their husbands or to other men who they were connected with as if they weren't able or capable to make that achievement on their own. But this is the time when we can, well, hopefully we can correct that every day of the year, but especially in March when the world kind of seems to have its eyes on the contributions that women have made. So, okay, so you already kind of alluded to what drew you to these stories, but tell us a little bit more about what drew you to documentary storytelling.
Well, it's the only job I've ever had, pretty much. I started it at working in kids' TV, educational TV, many, many years ago, so about over 30 years ago. And I just love it. I love meeting new people, learning new things. It's just for me, documentaries, so like it's just, real life is more interesting than any fiction thing.
Yes.
So yeah, and I've met really incredible people throughout my career, but I have to say this film kind of tops it for me in terms of these three amazing women that I've gotten to know, which has been such a blessing. And just, I mean, so amazing for me to be able to call them friends and to really have worked with them in that way for a sustained period of time. So yeah, it's pretty thrilling. It's a great occupation.
I have to say, I too am partial to the nonfiction end of things. As a creative myself, so in a different kind of storytelling piece, I write picture books for children. And often I lean towards writing nonfiction picture book biographies, actually, which is how I got connected with 261 Fearless, because I wrote the book Her Fearless Run, which is about Kathrine's 1967 run in Boston. So I feel a very strong kinship with what you're talking about here. But I want to talk about Tough Old Broads, your newest documentary. You must have spent so much time with these women. I can't imagine how inspiring that must have been, like the time you spent with all three of these women. What was it that gave you the idea for this film? What sparked it?
I was actually watching another film, another documentary. I like watching documentaries. And it was a documentary about street photographers. And one of the street photographers was Jill Friedman, who's this woman that lives in New York, or she lived in New York. She's passed since. And she, in the 70s, she would camp out with the police and the firemen in New York City and go on all their calls and take these photo essays of life as a policeman in New York City in the 70s, which was pretty rough.
Yeah.
And she was doing it. She was an older woman. She'd been doing this street photography her whole life. The men that she, was surrounded with had all gone on to great success, and she was still working on her first book kind of thing. And I was like, oh. And I was like, she's a really tough old broad. Like, how does somebody in the 70s kind of go and do that kind of really sort of risky and work that a woman wouldn't normally do in that era? So I got interested in the idea of these trailblazing women and what it was about them that made them be able to break those barriers. So I kind of had the film title before I had the film.
I love that. I love how the creative process just works in different ways for different things. Okay, so you have this title. How do you come up with, or I guess probably narrow down, who you're going to feature? Because I think that's often a problem, right? Is having too much content. How do I pare it down? How do I focus this in? So how did you choose the three women?
I mean, at first I was just generally looking for trailblazing women. And I had sort of three main criteria, which was they had to have done something like the first to do something in a man's world. They had to be older. So I had a cutoff of 70, which wasn't really old, but I needed a little wiggle room to be able to.
Sure.
Because I had a lot of boxes to check. And then the third one was that they were still active in their older age. And it was interesting, the research. Like sometimes I would be looking and the first were really surprising to me. Like the first woman to be a war reporter happened in World War I or something like I don't remember.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So a lot of the firsts were like actually like had passed already, which was kind of neat. Like some of them were quite unexpected that you wouldn't expect that women were doing something like that, in the hundreds. So that was kind of neat. And then a lot of them, the firsts were so late. It was like both of those things. So some of the firsts were way earlier than I thought. And some of the firsts were way later than I thought. Like, so they weren't old enough. So there was a lot of like kind of where they and then some of the ones that I found were maybe not active today, like they were older and they had illnesses or whatever. So it's
Hmm.
hard to actually find somebody who ticked all three boxes. And then it ended up that, so I was researching it for quite a long time. I spoke to a lot of amazing ladies. I also knew I wanted people from culturally diverse backgrounds. So that was another sort of thing I was thinking, that they would have different worldviews and different experiences. And then it turned out that I also put another thing, which was that they would have created meaningful change in their lifetime. And that became
Mm.
something that was really important to me. And I think it's an important piece of this film is that each of the women created change in their lifetimes. And I think that now, especially in dark times, you think that change isn't possible. But I wanted them to show that it is, in fact, possible if you keep going at it. It might take 20 years or 30 years, or, but
Right.
the key, the persistence was the key to all of that. And I think Kathrine talks about that a lot. So, but all of them are equally persistent in pursuing their sort of goals. So it was all that to say it took a really long time. It took me 3 years, part of which was during COVID.
Wow.
So I had a hard time reaching ladies during that time. But yeah, basically, it took me a good chunk of time to be able to find the right
Yeah.
place.
Okay. So tell us about the three women. We know Kathrine Switzer is one of them. So we're very familiar with her in this space. But can you tell us a little bit about the other two women that you have in the film?
Yeah, so the other woman is Sharon Farmer. She's an African American photojournalist. She grew up in Washington, lived in Washington all her life, Washington, D.C., I should say.
Okay.
And she was the first woman to be a White House photographer, first woman and person of
Wow.
color to be the chief official White House photographer for Clinton. So she worked under the Clinton administration for 8 years, I think, 4 years in which she was the chief photographer. So that was kind of
Wow.
neat. And she's also a civil rights activist. So she had done a lot of, I mean, through her lifetime, she's been an activist. And she was at Ohio State University right after well, at the same time as the Kent State shootings.
Okay.
National Guard had also stormed Ohio State. She was
Right.
very involved in the student government there and instrumental in creating meaningful change on her campus. So they ended up having more scholarships for Black students, more admittances for students in certain areas. They started one of the first African American studies department at that university. So her work really led the way for other Black students to thrive in at Ohio State. So she's a great
Wow.
lady, super
Yeah.
fun, lifetime of civil rights activism. I've never gone to so many marches and protests in my life.
Amazing.
It was a lot of fun. It really got me more politically involved and engaged in protest, especially. And the third person is Siila Watt-Cloutier. She actually is from Quebec, which is where I'm from. But
Mhm.
northern Quebec, she was raised in an Inuit community in the far north of Canada. She grew up really, really like the picture books, like on dog sled teams and igloo.
Wow.
So she grew up like that. She suffered through the residential school system here in Canada, which is a blight on our history. They basically took Indigenous and Inuit kids and shipped them away from their families and robbed them of their culture. So she's
Yeah.
been a huge supporter of healing her community, but more than that, she's been a climate activist. She calls herself a climate advocate because she doesn't like the word activism. I think they have a different approach to. So she's advocating for
Okay.
her people planet. And what she did was she actually was instrumental in getting persistent organic pollutants banned internationally through the Stockholm Convention. She worked in the UN
Wow.
10 years to make that happen. They did. So, I mean, talk about meaningful change. She's like literally changed the world in terms of pollutants. And she was also the first person to launch an international petition against the US for their role in climate change. It went through the
Wow.
UN Committee on Human Rights. And so it was really the first time linking climate change to human rights rather than it being like a scientific issue. Or she really brought the heart to the whole climate discussion and was nominated for a Nobel Prize along with Al Gore in 2007.
Wow.
So three pretty amazing ladies.
Yes. And of course, then our Kathrine Switzer and her 1967 Boston
Yes.
run and everything that she's done since then. That was something for me when I was researching Kathrine, was it wasn't just about that moment in 1967. It's about everything that she's done since that day. And it sounds like that was important to you as well, essential really for your documentary.
Well, it was pretty neat because she was, I mean, first woman's road race was, she was instrumental in starting that.
Right.
She was also instrumental in getting women's marathon accepted into the Olympics.
Right.
And we were lucky enough to be with her in Paris at the Olympics in 2024, which was the 40-year anniversary of women running the marathon in the Olympics. It was also the first Olympics that was 50-50 men and women. So it was a pretty amazing moment.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that. I can imagine what it's like being there just in that space and what that feels like, but as, this documentary filmmaker, how do you navigate all of that? And I feel like there must be so many different challenges that go along with making this type of film. Can you speak to a little bit of that?
Yeah, the Olympics were a really massive challenge. We didn't know, they weren't giving accreditation to people like me, like documentary filmmakers, getting like press passes. So I wasn't sure that I was going to be able to film until 5 o'clock at night before we were supposed to film at starting filming at 10.
No, are you serious?
Yeah, and we managed to get our passes through. I mean, Kathrine helped, so many people helped us to get our passes to be able to film that.
Wow.
It was just really quite extreme. I worked at over a 20-hour day that day.
Oh my God.
They ran at nighttime. So they started running at, I think, 10 and they finished at like 12:30 or 1. There were no cars in Paris. They didn't allow any cars. So we had electric rickshaws to drive us all around. It was pretty intense, I would say.
So lots of challenges.
Many, many challenges, yes. But it turned out great. I mean, it was wonderful. And we did have someone filming from inside the race, Rosemary Spraker.
Yes, Spraker. Yes, our Rosie. Yes.
Rosie is amazing.
She sure is.
She was filming for us. So a lot of the footage you see in the film is actually Rosie's, all the really good stuff.
Wow.
She's great. So she kind of was like a little bit of a camera person for us inside the race, which was wonderful. We had 2 camera people outside the race. I mean, that were in the crowds. So it was just fantastic. I mean,
yes.
Things I've done. I mean, exhausting and insane,
right?
But really good
in all the best ways. Was there any unexpected moments that surprised you?
Election night.
Sure.
It was a huge surprise.
Okay.
I thought it was going to be like the happy ending to the film where we would have the first woman and the first woman of color to be president in the United States. I was so excited. It was like a historic and wonderful, fabulous ending that I thought was going to just, be great in the film.
Sure.
So that ended up being a massive surprise. And kind of extremely upsetting. It was hard to shoot that night. I think at one point my cameraman forgot to shoot because we were all in shock.
Really?
Yeah, and I was like, "Hey, well, we should do something."
Yeah, yeah.
So it was really demoralizing, not only for Sharon but also for the entire crew. And then the next day, we really thought there were going to be protesters in front of the White House, and when we down to the White House and it was completely empty. I don't even think I've never seen the White House with so few people in front of it.
Wow.
Sharon was just, we were all in shock. And then to see that nobody was out protesting, nobody cared enough to show up. And so that was really, really demoralizing for all of us. It was a pretty difficult moment.
Yeah.
I mean, that was I think the biggest surprise for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder if it's just another reminder that we're just in the middle of this story, right? We still have to keep working at it and keep fighting for change.
I think it has made the film more urgent than it has like it's taken on a new sense of urgency, and the message in the film I think is more impactful now, that
Sure.
the job isn't done. We still have to keep working, and
Right.
progress isn't a straight line. Like progress is like, one step forward, two steps back,
Right.
and these women kind of show how you keep going, even during the dark times, during the bad times, like how you can keep yourself moving forward, even though it doesn't seem like the rest of the world is moving forward with you.
Right. Yeah. It's a good reminder of that. I can only imagine you had a lot of content and footage that you filmed, but you only have a certain amount of time that you can put into a film. So, was there something that didn't make it into the film that you want to share, that you feel like you tried really hard to keep it in? I feel like, when we writing books, we call it like killing our darlings. Like we have to get rid of some things that we love so much and would love to include, but there's just not space in the story for it. Was there any of that you can remember?
I think it's more not necessarily scenes, because I think I got in most of the scenes that I planned to,
Okay.
like that I shot and planned to do. But I think it was more stuff that the ladies said or talked about that I couldn't include everything. Like Kathrine had these wonderful stories about her father and how he inspired her to run. And he had this great line that, you don't want to be on the sidelines, you want to be in the race. Like these great quotes.
Yeah.
And we tried desperately to get the story about her father in, especially because I think it's really important for people to know that, women need male allies. They need someone to believe in them that's a man, because men are still controlling stuff.
Right.
So the only way you can make your way up is if some man gives you the opportunity, kind of thing.
Sure.
And we touch on it a little bit in the film, but I would have liked to have talked a little bit more about male allies and how important they are, especially because the men are still running everything. So in order to be a trailblazer, you need someone to step aside and let you do that, or promote you and help you up. So I think that is something I would have liked to have talked about a bit more in the film, for sure.
That's a really good point. We talk a lot about that with 261 as well. Without the male allies, it doesn't work. We need to all work together.
Yeah, we need good fathers to
Yes.
bring up
Strong
amazing
women.
sons. Well, not only strong women, but good sons too.
Absolutely. Absolutely, for sure. I couldn't agree more. Why do you think women are such powerful agents of change?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this a lot. Kathrine talks about how she did these studies, and it turns out that women have more endurance.
Yes.
Which makes sense, because even childbirth, you would think, yes, we need to be. But maybe that same endurance that you have physically also comes to the mental portion of it. And maybe women maybe they are just more dogged. Or because they've had to be, because in order to get anywhere, you sort of have to keep at it.
Right.
So I think women do have that either built into them naturally, or built into them because of the society we live in, that they're extremely persistent and dogged. And if they care about something, they're going to work to make it happen. So yeah, I guess it's that woman work ethic and doggedness that allows us to get places.
Right, because things don't necessarily come easy.
Yeah.
So Tough Old Broads is out. There was a big launch in Santa Barbara recently, right? And there's some other opportunities coming up for people to see it. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Cleveland International Film Festival just announced yesterday, so I'm allowed to share the news with you. We will be coming out in Cleveland on the 14th and the 15th of April. That's hugely exciting. There are a couple of other festivals that I'm applying to that I can't mention yet,
Okay.
but across I have applied for quite a few, and I'm waiting to hear back about different festivals. We are having a theatrical release of the film in Canada right now. We have a screening in Montreal this week on March 5th, and another one in Vancouver on March 8th for International Women's Day. And we will be having screenings in the rest of Canada throughout the month. So laying claim to this month, doing this film with people then. There will be a broadcast across Canada on Yes TV for Mother's Day, which I think is really sweet. So a lot going on, and we are releasing news on our website, so tougholdbroads.com. But really the most up-to-date stuff would be on our social media. So if you go to the website, tougholdbroads.com, it has all our links to our socials, and you can join there, and we'll be posting like that. That'll be the most up-to-date information.
Perfect. Oh my goodness. I'm so excited for this film. I admire all of the work that you've put into this, telling these women's stories. Are you still kind of in the kind of marketing publicity bits with Tough Old Broads, or do you have another idea for your next documentary?
I'm in the middle. I'm actually in production on a new documentary.
Wow, okay.
Yes, it's called The Doppelganger Project.
Ooh.
And it's about a photographer based in Montreal, in my hometown, which is fun. His name is Francois Brunel, and he takes photos for the past 25 years. He's been working on this art project, and he takes photos of people who look alike but are not related. They're black and white photos, these portraits side by side, very kind of intimate portraits of these people. He's been featured in the New York Times and all over the place. His photos are amazing. Like if you think the people are twins, like it's extraordinary. So I'm working with him now to document the 25th year of his art project and to film lookalikes in different parts of the world so that he hasn't been to already. So he's out planning trips in China and in Germany. But anyway, he's got all kinds of interesting plans, and I'm following him, and that film will come out in 2027 probably.
Wow. That's exciting. Very cool. Very cool project. Awesome. Okay, well, I'm looking at the time, and I'm going to wrap up with one last bit. I'm curious. We've talked about change so much. So I would love for you to finish this sentence and leave us with your words of wisdom. Change is possible when
we come together. I think that's the big thing.
Yeah, because that's where it all has to start.
Or I could say when we show up, maybe that would be what Kathrine would say.
When we show up, yes.
That would also be Kathrine. She's inspiring me. She's amazing. So yeah, she would say that. So that's Kathrine's answer is when we show up, and mine is when we come together. You can take either one.
Give a big thank you to Stacey for joining me today for this incredible conversation and sharing the behind the scenes and the making of her new documentary film, Tough Old Broads. I will link to the Tough Old Broads website as well as the social media channels in our show notes, so that way you can check it out and stay updated on any new editions of where you could maybe check this film out yourself. I love that this film is such an important reminder about how women are powerful change makers and that change is possible, and it might not happen overnight, but with persistence and with allies and support, change is possible. So let's all keep that in mind as we move through Women's History Month. Next week, we will have an inner monologue episode for you. Until then, have a great week. Stay fearless. We'll see you soon.